14 minutes to 5 here on the big time here on Sky Alpha HD. Welcome back to it. Yeah, there we go. I can hear. That is good. If I can hear, it means that you can hear. Good time. Shout out to the listener. Remember, you can follow us on social media on Facebook, Sky Alpha HD, on Twitter and the gram. We're at Sky Alpha_HD. Otherwise, go and like our page, The Big Time, on Facebook, on Twitter and the gram. We are at The Big Time LS. That's at The Big Time LS. And now for our Reimagine the Kingdom interview, our special edition Reimagine the Kingdom interview, festive edition. I got the fellas from Coalsack Media here, man. How are you going, guys?
No, sharp.
Some of you have come from far away.
Yeah.
Some of you are all the way from Cape Town.
Yeah, flew to Joburg, drove from Joburg, Maseru. Yeah.
Welcome, bro.
Thank you.
Matatikan is to my left, aka MC Walamata.
Bring it the old stuff.
I wonder if we're going to get 16 bars out of it.
We'll see. Still I'm feeling.
He is the writer at Coalsack Media, and further on to my left is brother Sakansi. He is the illustrator. How are you going, bro?
I'm good, bro.
You okay, man?
Very, very glad to be here.
It's lovely to have you. I believe I could get 16 bars out of you too.
Like 10 years ago.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. There's a bunch of rappers in there. It's exactly. Guys, welcome to the Big Time here on Sky Alpha HD.
Thank you for having us, man.
It's so great to have you guys on the show. We on the Thursday edition we generally have nerds, so we're gonna like geek out. Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
I like. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Comics. Let's start there. How did this come about?
All right. So myself and my partner, we started with a comic strip about 2018, maybe 2017. Just playing around with comic strip, and then we eventually did a comic strip called Clash of the MCs, which was based on a rap battle in Cape Town. So we used to go to the rap battles, take footage, use their footage, and put it in a comic format. So that's how the medium started. And then obviously the Kopanale Mokena, and he's like, I love comics as well. And then that's how Coalsack was born in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, but the love for comics, that's a conversation we can have because that started a long
That started way back.
Yeah.
And how did they find you, brother Skansi?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
I suspect, with Palasa, like I already, we went to high school together.
Okay.
So I think there was already a knowledge, like she knew that I did art. So also I'm on Instagram pretty heavy. I've been putting a lot of my work out on Instagram.
On the gram.
For like the past 2 years now. Pretty seriously. So I think they just, connected the dots and like, you see you're into this thing, we're into this thing as well, let's do the things.
So also like, okay, what we could do is get into kind of animation and the comic world. How did you guys start?
The actual comic or
the actual comic? We'll get to Coalsack Media.
Alright, so
like, what's the first thing you do? You're like, I wanna start a comic. How do you go about it?
Yeah, so me being the writer, I written I think 8 issues for Bishop Q. And another 8 issues for another comic called Tabatiba Taban that's coming early next year.
Jeez, okay.
So I did a bit of courses on writing, some fictional writing, and then I actually got a book called How to Make Comics Like the Pros.
Okay.
Yeah, so there they break it down in terms of script format, because all these formats have different script formats.
Yeah.
So a screenplay is different from a play on stage.
Different to a short story.
Yeah. So this one was specifically for comics, and it's really it's still my Bible. I still go back to it right now. And so then obviously had the script, and then approached Scans over here, and I give him the script, and he interprets it his creatively way. I mean,
Yeah.
you can take it from there.
Yeah. We developed a pretty good system, actually. I think, where that's or should I first start with the comic part? Like, how do I make my origin story?
Right. Yeah.
Just like him, I started very early, and I would my father would buy me these, or go into these 2 choir, 3 choir books for school. So I was with the red.
Right.
Yeah. So my father would buy me those all the time when I was a kid. They used to call them clean page books. So he would buy me them all the time, and I'd fill them up in like a week, just like drawing. So what I would do is I would pull out how there are certain, like, the pages meet somewhere, and there's like you can pull it out
in the binder.
You can pull it out, and it's like 40 pages, just like that. So I would just staple the ends over there, and then start like making a comic book, because it's pretty much like a book kind of a. So that was like the practice. So by the time Mutazi approached me, it was like 20 years of practice.
You had put on your 10,000 hours already.
Well over that. So it was like a smooth thing. We developed a nice system where he writes, and then he just passes me the script. I interpret it artistically. Then we go back and forth to make sure, okay, how do you feel about this page? How do you feel about this layout, etc. And then
So you're in Cape Town when you write, and he's in Maseru when he illustrates.
Yeah, don't you love that though?
That's
we've worked with a guy in Zambia. Mkena, for his book, he's working with a guy in England a bit for the actual book, not the graphic novel.
Yeah.
So we live in a world where
it's a global village,
yeah.
But also, I think COVID has really kind of showed us that.
Exactly.
You've got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's then talk about the business of comics. So now you've started a comic. You've got this character Bishop Q. Now you got to get it out into the big bad world.
Marketing.
Yeah. What happens?
Right now we're in a couple of bookstores.
Okay.
Being based in Cape Town, Cape Town, so I think exclusive books, we've got Constantia, we've got Cavendish, we've got the Waterfront. We finally got Mall of Africa in Joburg.
Oh, nice.
Exclusive books.
Okay.
Reader's Den, which is like the comic mecca of Cape Town.
Okay.
We actually have a quote from Nizar, the guy from Reader's Den, in the comic.
Oh, nice.
So that little things like that are also useful, because funny enough, when I went to the Waterfront, they were trying to say, so then the guy who's in charge of the comic section, I think like, oh no, I wanna comment on Nizar.
No, we know it.
So that part became part of the marketing, having little quotes from people in the actual comic. So it's been bookstores, and then hand to hand, courier to wherever you need to be. There's educational business services in Maseru.
Right.
They hold a couple of our comics. So that's what it's been right now. Breaking into markets outside of, say, South Africa, Lesotho has proven to be a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
We are going to push the digital agenda a little bit longer. We're also on Amazon. So if you search Bishop Q Comic, and on Coalsack, you should find me. Okay. And the courier cost is what kills us. So we would need like diamond distributors to like order 1,000 copies at a time like that.
Numbers,
it's been that kind of push, and this kind of stuff as well. This is useful. For marketing purposes.
I think the word is published. How is it actually published? How is it bound and the papers together so that it becomes a comic?
So you maybe Stan can also pitch in here, but essentially you need to decide how big you want it. We looked at various comics that were already out there in terms of size and so our comic is about 10 pages short of a graphic novel, because by a graphic novel is 48 pages.
Okay.
Our comic Bishop Q is about 38 pages.
Right.
So we made it a little bit bigger than, let's say, an Archie comic, but a little bit smaller than a magazine kind of thing. So then you speak to the printers, and then scans will get the measurements right in terms of
Layouts
and that kind of stuff.
Design and
Layout, and even the bleed.
The bleed, yeah.
And yeah, send it to the printers. They'll send you the first version, and you tell them, no, this is nonsense.
Yeah, this is rubbish. What is this? Yeah.
And then you go through one or two backfalls. When I'm not going to the actual printers, when we printed the first with them, then Bachincha the printer, and it wasn't the same.
So what the hell's going on here?
And they don't tell us, Bachincha the printer. So
Nah, this is not the same.
So we had to change them again, and we found a printer that we hope will be more reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And consistent.
Yeah. So, but printing as well is a luxury, because being a variable cost, the more you print, the more your costs go up. The digital part of this whole thing that would more it doesn't have that printing cost.
Right.
So we're playing around with the idea for future comics to push the digital agenda,
Yeah.
and then make the printed versions hard to get.
And is it being printed in country, or is it being printed in Cape Town?
It's been printed in Cape Town.
In Cape Town.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My mind is blown. So is it a series so like you mentioned Archie comics. So is it a series of stories, series of Bishop Q stories, or is it just one long story per edition?
So like I said, it's almost a graphic novel, so it is kind of like a long story per issue, but it's an ongoing issue. I do have an end in mind.
Oh, okay.
In terms of the story, but when and how we'll get there and how many issues it'll take to get there, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, and it's also part of a bigger universe. So these characters that you see on the left here, part of them, so the little kids are the Tawatiba Tabang comic.
Oh, okay.
It's targeted at a younger audience.
Alright.
And they are part of the Star City universe. And Star City, it's a lady, being the lady where
you came up. Yeah. Star City, baby. Yeah, this is brilliant. Absolutely fascinating. So now the thing is printed and it needs to be distributed. Where to from there?
Well, between the marketing and trying to break into wider markets, primarily, like I said, we're working on issue 1 of Tawatiba. In an ideal world, you want to be bringing them out on a periodic level. So you want to be either monthly, quarterly,
right?
Because one of the people are asking, where's issue 2?
Where's issue 2? Yeah.
But this man next to me here doesn't come cheap. So these funds,
it's not free.
Yeah, they have to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And but one other day we're working on Tawatiba Tabang, and he can actually tell you a little bit about where we are exactly.
Well, we'll get to Tawatiba Tabang just now. I want us to talk about the character Bishop Q and the characters that are in the comic.
Yeah.
What are they based on? Where do they come from? Is it purely artistic license, so to speak?
Yeah.
Or are they based on certain things?
So no particular character is based on one person.
Okay.
Bishop Q has elements of my life story, given that he's a rapper.
Thanks,
coming from Lesotho, moving to Joburg, and eventually he does actually end up in the Cape Town version of the universe.
Okay.
And, I think I'm going with Coal City for that name.
Yeah.
Joburg is called Mine Town in the universe. And there's also going to be elements of that in terms of mining things, part of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably based on me, but he's also based on Bachwa in my life.
So like loosely based on you.
Yeah. But I'm not that cool.
Yeah. Okra beef.
Hey,
Put some dudes on blast.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in terms of the design of the way he looks. So I would choose a couple of people and then I would send them to scans, like maybe a celebrity or anybody like that. You know, women love scans, and like he interprets it however he sees it. You know what I mean? So I allow him to have a lot of creative license.
Right.
Allow him to bring his own element into it, and then the little details sometimes though, you know, I will, like the scar, that was important for me because what I realized is that comic book characters, Superman, you see the S, you know.
Yeah.
Batman, you see the bat,
Yeah.
you know, the Batman.
Yeah.
So I wanted him to have something unique about him.
Right.
And that scar on his eye is a little touching, and I think, okay, how will I that scar? What's it about?
That's his core differentiator.
Yeah.
And then, Scanty, for you, what's it like interpreting, you know, Kane's thoughts? Because that's essentially what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, if I'm being honest with you. I really like it because I like making things and creating things. So when he gives me that brief, it's like, oh, okay, let's see, you know, let me see how I can. I see it more like a challenge, if I'm being honest with you. I see it more like, okay, he's giving me this kind of character. Can I interpret the character properly? You know, also just for the, you know, just to include it in there. There's nothing, well, there are a few things that make an artist happier than when you have someone who gives you that creative freedom.
Yeah.
It's so encouraging, and it's, you know, you get to really stretch your muscles, your artistic muscles, and pull it. And so I'm grateful that, you know, he wasn't micromanaging or anything. Like, all right, do your artist thing. Yeah. So it's great fun, and he's great fun to work with.
That's what you creatives are like. Eh? You creatives just want artistic license, and
and
then we gotta put you on a leash, because then you guys start to go.
I've told him that.
Yeah. Tangent. Like, hey, whoa, come back.
Yeah. Because define the borders.
Yeah.
Define the borders, because I'll go everywhere.
Very good. Very, very good. Now, I mean, before we go to break, let's talk realities. It isn't a lot of black black animation characters out there. Certainly not a lot of black superheroes out there. What is the significance of Bishop Q being a black cartoon character that is a superhero too?
So, firstly, let me say there's no agenda. There's no agenda to make black comics. It's just that we are black, and you know, Africa.
It so happens. This is what I need to do.
So, you know, it would be very strange me talking about things I don't know about.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know white people, and you know, I have white friends, but those are not the most interesting parts of my
of you. Yeah.
And we do feature them in characters here. I mean, if a character is from the Western territories, then he might be white, you know. Yeah. But in terms of if there was an agenda for Coalsack, I think the narratives in terms of Africa, we want to create new narratives, and we want to update existing narratives. So that would be the slight agenda that we have. And
what do you mean by that? What do you mean update existing narratives? I like that. I'm going to use that one day as if I can get a clarification.
Yeah. So look, it's false to say that the black comics don't exist, and there are a lot of people doing a lot of work. They're not as big as Superman right now. They're not as big as Batman right now, but they are a lot. What I am finding though is that we sometimes get stuck in topics like slavery.
Yeah.
We get stuck in topics like Maseru, and there are other stories, man. Those are not the only stories we have, and we're world building things that, you know, like what's his name? What's that guy with Game of Thrones? Tolkien, you know.
No.
But Tolkien did
Lord of
the
Rings.
Yeah. But not all they, you know, they are creative and they create worlds, and that's what we're doing, you know.
Yeah.
And the main thing is that in terms of the medium, the comics medium, I think there's a misconception that if you read a comic, it's not the same as reading a book.
Yeah.
And we definitely hope that when people pick up our comics,
Mm.
then they'll pick up another comic, and it does count as reading. Because
Sure.
that's because it's got pictures.
Doesn't mean you haven't read.
You haven't read, there's still words in there, you know. So
Okay.
in terms of any sort of angle that we're going at, it's storytelling and character development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the important bits.
Yeah.
It is 6 after 5 here on the Big Time on Sky Alpha HD. Let me pay my bills. When we come back, we'll talk more about Coalsack Media as an entity. We'll talk about the players in Coalsack Media, and we'll talk about what it's like working in Cape Town with people who are in Lesotho. This is our first edition of the Big Time. Remember, it's summer in HD. It's summer in Kulugabi. I'm fun. It's 1715 here on the Big Time on Sky Alpha HD. Welcome back to it. We've got Coalsack Media in the house, Bishop Q, Big Daddy Kane, and Sigansi. They've promised a 16 bar later on, so perhaps we'll have a cipher because Lemekwane is in the mix as well. Who knows, maybe Dust will throw in a word or two. Shout out to the audience. This is the first time the Big Time's ever had an audience. Appreciate you. Big ups for coming through. It is the special edition, summer edition of the Big Time. Here on Sky Alpha HD, as I said, I'm still with my two guests, Big Daddy Kane and Scansi. I wanted to discuss Coalsack Media. Okay, so how does Coalsack Media come about exactly?
So, as I mentioned, myself and Palesa, we started doing the comics in 2018, and then we just carried on, and then
Let's tell them who Palesa is.
Palesa is one of my partners, and she's also my wife.
Okay.
So they go to the same gym with our third partner, Mokena.
Okay.
And they happened to have a conversation about what we were doing already. And next thing you know, we're having a call, and Coalsack Media is born, September 2020, or even earlier, but that's when we had our launch last year. Okay,
we're doing this now.
Yeah, so Mokena, all three of us are writers. Mokena, he's written like 10,000 word novels.
Jesus. Why?
So then what's happening now is that the format that probably makes more sense, turning his novel into, is a graphic novel.
Okay.
So what we're doing we're doing the storyboarding for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will take a bit of a longer process.
Okay.
But that's what I'm also currently busy with in terms of the work that we're doing.
Now you were bringing me in on secrets. Who is Coalsack Media? It's those three people that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's myself, Palesa, and Mokena.
Currently. And really, your core business is Bishop Q, and as you said, Tawa Tuba Tabang, but it's the comics.
Currently, yes.
Yeah.
But that said, though, let me just read this. We do say that we are we're a 360-degree entertainment wheelhouse for popular culture, inspired by Africa and the world. Africa's first and last stop for original thinking and creating. So the 360 degree is that, so you can go.
You're a banker, bro. You don't know anything about that.
What do you mean? I'm a creative as well.
I'm gonna let you have it. Yeah, okay.
So the thing is, comics is where we started and is where we're meeting, but we would love to go into, like I said, graphic novels. Like I said, McKenna's doing the novels. We'd love to turn that into an audio book. We'd love to turn that into, in the book, having actual illustrations. And then we'd love to look into animation. And if live action comes in, I mean, we've been in the Zoom call with somebody who is very well connected to Netflix, but
they aren't paying us.
Anyway, so we're definitely not limiting ourselves into comics, but comics is more kopaning, writing is more kopaning, and then obviously that comes along with merchandise, that comes along with posters, that comes along with toys or figurines. So there's that leg of it.
So it's a turnkey solution.
Yeah.
To use the jargon of the industry.
Yeah. And then the smoke sweets are the NFT.
Yeah. Smokes loves it. And if Bella was here, she'd be chiming in about NFTs.
Yeah.
Sky Alpha HD has a TV as well. So you guys shouldn't forget Sky Alpha HD when you're busy expanding. From Lesotho to the world. So Kansi, what is your interest in the business of comics and now that you found yourself doing this, what is your interest in potentially becoming part of the business and seeing commercial success?
No pressure.
Well, I've been like in it now actually. It's been quite a few years actually. Even before we started working with Maseru and Coalsack actually. But yeah, I'm paying close attention to NFTs as well. But I'm not completely sold.
Okay.
Just yet. But yeah,
you're looking for proof of concept.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. It seems a bit tricky to do, but then again, I think we just need to understand it because, with time, these new things, we'll get used to them and figure out how to do them. I mean, if I had told my father, if I could travel back in time and go and talk to my father when he was my age,
and tell him the things that happened.
The things I can do now with my art, it's like it's like magic.
Yeah.
It doesn't even compute for their generation.
For sure.
So, but I mean, obviously you're paying close attention to, you gotta get paid, bro. I'm just saying.
You gotta stack that paper, baby.
Yeah, I'm just saying what it is. You gotta, especially because you touched on a point about there's not many black illustrators, animators, etc.
Yeah.
And you have to, take yourself seriously. This is your work.
This is what we do for that's where you're at. I want to open the questions to the floor. I'm going to open the floor shortly. I just want us to wrap up our discussion before, because I see some of the reprobates sitting in the floor, and I can't trust what they're going to ask you. So I want to make sure that I've covered all
bring it.
I want to make sure I've covered all the areas. So in terms of the trajectory, where do we go from edition 1 of the comic?
So, as I mentioned, ideally we want to get to a point where we can confidently say this is coming out periodically, whatever that periodically is, whether it's quarterly or daily. So, in the meantime, we'll release whatever stories we can, and we are working out the business model that will get us there in terms of whether it's sales and distribution, whether it's getting somebody who's putting money in, or we're not just looking for money, because I think you can go to the bank for money, but obviously we have to be some sort of working relationship when we do that. And once we get that business part of it right, we are only just going to continue. We're going to get to a point where we'll tell you Bishop Q is coming out in a month. Tabatiba Town issue 2 is coming out whichever month. And then next year, we're hoping we can do some sort of animation. Obviously, these things take time, but we definitely want to start kicking that off next year. And and then there's an educational entertainment leg of this that we also looking into. So like kids puzzles, that kind of stuff. So we're looking at, we're creatives and we love what we do in terms of writing and creating, but we really need to push on the business side of this, otherwise we won't be sustainable.
The business, the business supports the passion.
Yeah.
When can we expect Tabatiba Town to come out?
First quarter next year.
First quarter next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds really good. So something to look forward to in
Yeah.
2022.
I think it's exciting for that. I'm excited about that one. We went a different angle in terms of style. It's still skunks illustrating.
Okay.
Working with another guy called Liam. Shout out to Liam. His colors are amazing, and it's a, like I said, younger genre, and we're hoping to expand our market in terms of
Who do you expect to read Bishop Q? Who do you expect to be the average, say, the archetypal reader of Bishop Q?
I've got so young adult. There's if you go on the internet and look up young adult, you might get varying answers. In my mind, young adult is 16 upwards.
Okay.
All right, but at this other end, it's a comic. And I was 10 years old, I would read Bishop Q, and I was reading a comic like Bishop Q. Obviously, parental guidance is advice, and you need to decide for each child and each child's maturity as a parent. But I don't think, I mean, Scans, I don't know if you agree, I don't think there's anything that hectic in the comic that a teenager, 13-year-old couldn't read.
Couldn't handle.
And couldn't handle.
Yeah.
It's up to the kid.
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of kid you're dealing with. I mean, I was exposed to a lot of things that, to be frank, I shouldn't have.
It's like, hey, why was I reading that?
Yeah, but you know, I could understand it. I could I could understand what I was being, shown. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've about covered the areas that I wanted to cover. Let's go to the floor to see if our first audience here on the Big Time has any questions. Whoever asks this question will have made history because they will be the first audience member to ask questions on a Big Time show. Don't all jump at once now. They're not all jumping at once. So let me continue. When they have something to ask.
Put up your hand. Oh, there's
a hand. If you don't mind, you could just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and then ask your question.
Hello?
Yep. Good.
Mic check.
I'm Sentam Kainane, old friend of Mutlanzi and everyone else. I've got a question just about, there's clearly like a subculture in the whole comic world, right? So how is this first issue of Bishop Q been received in that kind of environment?
Good question.
So, yeah, you're definitely correct. It is a subculture, and what's the expression that Ken likes to use? But you gotta find your people, So the sad thing about COVID happening is that we used to attend FanCon, Comic Con, and that's where you would definitely find the people that you're looking for.
Find your tribe.
Yeah, your tribe. Yeah, that's the word. So, the comic itself, critically, in terms of the subculture, I think it's received well. The story's received well. The graphics, the drawings, and the creativity coming from Scans has also been identified as uniquely African, in that we are not trying to be a Marvel or a DC. So it's been received well in terms of that. What I would say is that distribution is what we still need to figure out. And like I said, in the Comic Con and those not being available, they did limit us in terms of that kind of exposure. But in terms of the actual book itself, the feedback has been awesome, and yeah, we are on the right track, I think.
Yeah, that's I like to hear that kind of thing. So talking actually to the question about the subculture, you are clearly we're trying to build a following. Is it important to you where that following emanates from, or are we trying to spread this as far and wide as possible?
Leave no money on the table. No, look, the nice thing about the three of us myself, Palesa and Mukina, is that we're not the same, we're different, and I've always had a Southern Africa out into Africa approach. East Africa, West Africa, let's do it. Palesa and Mukena are more, let's hit the Americas of the world, let's hit the UK, So like I said, leaving no money on the table, we're going anywhere that anybody wants to.
You're coming for everything.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it. Any other questions on the floor there?
I think the ladies wanna.
The ladies wanted to ask. Beef was throwing the ladies under the question. There we go.
It's not a question. I'm just saying, I'm really excited about Bishop Q because I used to read comics at CNA, doing research for free, and I'd just be in there for hours. So when Palesa started showing me this project, I was super excited and well done. I hope you guys reach everything that you dream of.
Thank you very much. Can you introduce yourself though?
Also, don't go and read this one for free.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks, definitely buy this one and go and read it. And sorry, was there another question there on the floor? Dust, you look like you want to ask a question. Dust? You got nothing that you want to say? I'm not shy. It's only 122,000 people. Yes.
Palesa here. So I just wanted to ask, so if we want to buy comics in, Bishop Q in Lesotho, where can we find the comics? Are they available anywhere in Lesotho yet?
Very good question. I was going to ask that.
I did mention educational business services earlier. It's opposite the South African High Commission, and the name of the building is the Christian Council building. They're in there. They always have copies, and if they don't, we send them more copies, and you can reach them at Maseru at educationalbusinessservices.com, and if you go to their website as well, you'll find information of how to get the comic there as well.
Very cool. Bella is going to get 2 copies of the comic, and she is going to give them away to 2 lucky listeners on the big time. So listen out for that. As I said, follow on all the social media. Bra Beef seems to have a question. Bra Beef.
Mike, check 1, 2, and 2.
Check 1, 2.
Mpoto Tawani, big up to you guys, Mutazi and gang, and Palesa and Mugena. Just wanted to know, being creatives and being in that creative space, is there a way you're trying to merge like the comic culture with, I'm sure there's the music aspect of it, and how those 2 worlds will intertwine just to spread the word of the comic culture? I think it'll be a lot more digestive to other people if the cultures are.
See, the big time also has a really big time audience. Like, it's not just the show.
Yeah.
If you listen to the big time, you're probably big time dude.
That's a very good question. So, like I said, Bishop Q himself is an MC, and I always worry about when I'm telling the story that I don't bring it in just because I'm a hip hop head. So I wouldn't say there is a direct link right now. I will say though that in terms of audio, it's definitely something that we are looking into in terms of the different mediums we can do. Because even like with the novel, like I said, we don't just want to do a novel. We want audiobooks. We want, there's these nice sound effects that come with. It's a book about werewolves or wolverine that Ben has written. So there's always these sounds that are growling, that kind of thing. So if you could find a medium that incorporates all of that, that's awesome. And on the website, I've always wanted a website that you have an option to be listening to something while you're reading, whether a comic or whatever, because yes, while I said it is reading earlier, it's not studying, you don't need to be listening to Beethoven, or whoever else they said you must listen to when you're studying. But it's a very good question. I haven't seen the link quite yet, but because I'm a hip hop head, if it's there, I'll find it.
before we go to break again, you're a kid from Lesotho. You have an interest in comics like you and Skansi and presumably Mogena and Balasa did. How do you find yourself creating a comic book for yourself?
You want to start?
Could you elaborate a little bit on it for yourself?
Yeah. So how if I'm a kid from Lesotho, how do I get involved in the space?
Oh. Well, the beautiful thing about our generation is that we have access to damn near everything. And you know, there's kids in rural parts of the country who have phones that can connect to the internet, and you can be exposed to these things. You know, you can learn. I mean, I always make the example. Of like how I learned to speak English. 70% of the English I speak I learned from television.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hated English at school. I hated grammar. I hated all that stuff. I only liked creative writing and stuff because I got to make things. But yeah, you know, because those kids have the opportunity to be exposed to all these things, even some things that, you know, we weren't exposed to, you know, at that age. I think they should, you know, it would be nice if the government also got behind that, you know what I mean, and like created some kind of thing where these kids can be exposed to what's going on in the rest of the world with regards to like digital art and whatever. So the ones who are interested can go there and develop their skills and such. So yeah, I think that would be a really, that's just, you know, expose yourself to what you have access, you know, what you have access to. Use your phone for more than Twitter and Facebook and all these things. You know, you have everything in your pocket now. Really,
Yeah.
you know.
You got complete access.
We say that a little light-hearted, but it's not an exaggeration. You have access to the greatest library of information our species has ever produced in your pocket. You can be exposed to everything now. So yeah, that would be.
That's a good first answer.
Yeah.
Big Daddy Ken, what is your?
So it's been interesting coming back home because there were a lot of us who wanted to do this. You know?
Yeah.
We used to always talk about stuff like this, and you guys are like, you're actually doing it, and you know. You talked about 10,000 hours earlier. So if you're an illustrator, draw.
Yeah.
If you're a writer, write. You know, get your craft right, and I think once you start getting there, and like Skan said, the resources for you to improve on that are there. You can go on YouTube and learn how to improve your drawing. In fact, I'm not an illustrator, but every now and then I'll send Skan's interesting video because I watch the illustration videos as well, and be like, hey, check this Japanese guy out, look what he's doing, you know, like that.
Can I just interrupt you?
Sure.
Sorry, but I think it's also worth noting that I didn't like go to school for this.
Yeah.
You know, like I learned from I'm like 90% self-taught. That 10% is stuff from you know, YouTube tutorials and maybe I don't know, you DM an Instagram artist.
Yeah.
Yo, bro, how did you do this? How did you acquire this thing? Some of them respond to you.
Yeah.
Some of them be like, oh yeah, this is how I did this and this is how I did that. And you learn. You get better.
That is truly magnificent. Wow.
Yeah.
That is a hell of a thing.
So put in your hours, put in your work. It's a passion, but I promise you, everything requires effort and work.
Yeah.
You know, get better at your craft, and you'll start figuring it out. Your journey is not going to be the same as mine or Skan's.
Yeah.
But I know for sure if you put in the work, you'll start figuring out.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's 22 minutes to 6 here on the big time on Sky Alpha HD. It is a special edition of Reimagine the Kingdom. It is a festive edition. We are coming to you live from the Advocate Suite. Shout out to the Creative Lab who have made this possible. Shout out to Coalsack Media who are in the house. Big ups to Sky Alpha HD. We are doing this thing like we're doing it for TV. Let's go pay these bills. But before we pay the bills, how about a little bit of 25K? 11 minutes to 6 on the big time on Sky Alpha HD. I was trying to get to rap to the song, but I guess he's a little shy. The crowd is here. I guess he wasn't feeling like rapping for the big time crowd. It's okay, T-Neck. You do what you do. It is Summer in HD. It's Summer in Kulugabi. It is the big time here on Sky Alpha HD. I am the fire. I'm rolling solo. Shout out to Bella. She's got a bereavement, so she wasn't able to come through today. She was really looking forward to it. Wanted to come and nerd and geek out. She's the ultimate nerd.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So she was looking forward to being here, but alas.
I did see a post by her saying that she wanted to be a character in a comic.
Yeah, you guys just make like a small chocolate person. That'll be better. We are gonna wrap up the show pretty soon. It's been really cool having you guys in here. The last question is the most important question on the show. So it doesn't matter how well you've answered all the other questions. If you answer this, if you give a monkey town answer, that's all we'll remember. All right? The show is called Reimagine the Kingdom. The Thursday edition of Sky Alpha HD is called Reimagine the Kingdom. So what we want from you is for you to paint a picture for us. Reimagine this kingdom that we inhabit. What does the perfect version of this kingdom look like for the both of you?
So I'm not gonna say that's an easy one for me, but this particular comic, Bishop Q, and the universe is based in, it is a reimagined universe of particularly Southern Africa, but the world, and a lot of it has to do with how I imagine things could be, or obviously keeping in mind the way things really are, but because being able to be creative, you can imagine in a different world, a different way. So if I was to be bold about my answer, I would say that this kingdom of Lesotho is very rich in culture, in that Lesotho, but as you know, we are made up of different cultures from the area. And one of the things that I'm trying to, I would say, if I have an agenda in my stories, is trying to imagine a bigger part of this world that is not necessarily limited by borders. So yes, you can keep your sovereignty, you can keep your culture, your nationality, but in terms of movement of people, I think it's important that we allow people to move that want to move. You don't have to force anybody to move, but freedom of movement, I think, is important. It's important to get to know other parts of the world, other cultures, and you don't have to go to America. I haven't left the continent, but I've been to a whole lot of countries on the continent, and yes, home is always home, but I get something from those places. So I think it's very important that we don't limit people because of what they hate. Yeah.
I like that. Scancy, what you got for me?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I think I would say infrastructure. The ideal Lesotho for me would just be one where people don't feel that the reason why they have to leave is because they can't do what they really want to do at home. It shouldn't have to be a question of whether or not the government supports it or, whatever such things. It should be like, okay, the reason we have such an underdeveloped private sector, a private sector that would allow a Coalsack media, for example, to thrive. I won't say for sure I know the reasons, but the fact is, it is very underdeveloped.
Yeah.
And that is what gets people to say, all right, let me leave. Let me go see where a more developed place. Yeah, see what I can get from that situation. So for me, I would just it would be really nice if we just had more infrastructure. The majority of the people that I work with, the majority of the people I work for, actually even the majority, all of them are all based outside this country. Because what I do just, it can't happen.
Doesn't exist here.
It can't happen like that.
Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, man. This whole NFT thing, it requires a certain level of infrastructure. I'll include education in that infrastructure so that, it's easy for people to access information so that they learn how to develop said private sector, the aforementioned private sector. So yeah, I would just say infrastructure would be the dream.
It's a very, very good answer. You guys have been great guests.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming through. Shout out to the Creative Lab for hosting us. Shout out to Coalsack Media for coming through and chilling out with the big time. We wouldn't normally be live at this time of the year, but we figured it is important for us to tell the story. It's a special occasion, if you will. And of course, thank you so much to our live audience. First time we've ever had an audience here on the Big Time on Sky Alpha HD. We appreciate each and every one of you. We appreciate the listener. We appreciate the numbers. 122,000 at last count. We will never ever take that for granted. I appreciate each and every one of you. It's the Big Time here on Sky Alpha HD. We're going to play out with a song that reminds Rabith and I of a special time in our lives. Thank you so much for listening. We're out.